She doesn't fear losing you because she doesn't believe she can lose you. That's the real problem. But the second she feels that shift, when she senses she's no longer the center of your world, everything changes. Most guys are out here trying to impress women, constantly texting, calling, reassuring, giving her all the attention she could ever want. And you know what that does? It makes her feel safe. Too safe. So safe that she starts to take you for granted. But what if I told you that you could flip that switch, not by being toxic or manipulative, but by changing the way you show up? What if you could trigger her fear of losing you, not through mind games, but by becoming a man she's scared to live without? She doesn't fear losing you because deep down she doesn't believe she ever could. That's the real issue most men don't realize until it's too late. See, a woman only starts fearing your absence the moment she senses she no longer has full control of your attention. Not when you say you'll leave, not when you send a paragraph text, not when you ask her what's wrong, but when your silence, your detachment, your shift in focus becomes real. The second she starts feeling your emotional distance, even if she can't explain why, something switches inside her. That's when her mind begins to spiral. Why is he pulling away? Did I do something wrong? Is he seeing someone else? Did he lose interest? That's the fear we're talking about. The fear of losing a man who once showed interest, but no longer seems emotionally tied to her approval. And let me be clear, this has nothing to do with playing mind games. It's not about acting cold, being toxic, or ghosting someone out of nowhere. It's about reclaiming your power. Because the truth is, a woman only chases a man when she feels like she's no longer the one in full control. That's when the dynamic flips. That's when her effort starts to rise, her texts come faster, her tone softens, and her curiosity spikes. Why? Because now she's wondering where she stands with you. And that uncertainty, when it's triggered correctly, makes her value you more than a man who's always there, always available, always proving himself. When she doesn't feel your absence, she'll never fear it. But when she feels like she might have lost a man who could have been hers, that's when it stings. Most guys go wrong by trying to secure her interest too early. They go all in. Constant messages, constant attention, endless validation. And at first, yeah, she might appreciate it. She might even enjoy the chase being over. But that fades fast. Because once a woman knows you're not going anywhere, she stops investing. That's just human nature. We all want what we think we could lose. We all pay more attention to things we're afraid of losing. So the more a man positions himself as guaranteed, as someone she knows, will always answer the phone, always be available, always give her what she wants, the less value he holds in her eyes. And the moment you become a certainty in her life, her emotional response to you drops. No more butterflies, no more anticipation, no more urgency to keep you around. Now let me paint a picture. Let's say there's a guy who's texting her good morning every single day. He compliments her, likes all her pictures, sends her memes, checks in constantly. She doesn't have to wonder how he feels. She already knows. And while that might seem romantic or sweet, over time it starts to feel predictable, easy, boring. It doesn't create tension. It doesn't create desire. It just confirms what she already knows. He's hooked. And the moment she feels like she's the prize and you're just chasing her, the balance is gone. You've placed her on a pedestal, and now she sees you as someone who's chasing, not someone she's trying to keep. But now imagine a guy who gave her great energy at the start, maybe showed some interest, had a good connection with her. But then, as things move forward, he didn't make her the center of his world. He wasn't always available. He didn't over-explain himself. He stayed focused on his goals. He didn't try to win her over constantly. Now she starts to feel unsure. Her mind starts working overtime. Why hasn't he texted me back yet? He always responds fast. Is he busy? Or maybe he's losing interest. Now she's investing more energy. She's checking her phone more often. She's thinking about what she said, how she acted. That's the shift that creates fear of loss. It's not about ignoring her. It's about no longer seeking her validation as a form of self-worth. When she realizes you're not emotionally dependent on her, she starts becoming emotionally reactive to you. And that right there is the difference between being wanted and being valued. See, being wanted is easy. Anyone can get attention. A woman can want you, enjoy talking to you, enjoy being around you. But that doesn't mean she's afraid of losing you. That doesn't mean she sees you as irreplaceable. The guy she values is the one she feels she has to work for, the one she's not entirely sure about, the one who respects himself so much that he won't tolerate mixed signals, emotional manipulation, or inconsistent effort. And when you hold that line, not through threats, not through arguments, but simply through your behavior, that's when she starts to feel something real. That's when she realizes, wait, if I don't step up, I might actually lose him. It's crazy how fast things shift when a woman senses your energy pulling back. Suddenly, she's the one initiating more. Suddenly, she's double texting. Suddenly, she's asking if something's wrong, trying to recreate the spark that she once took for granted. And the beauty of this approach is that it doesn't involve any games. You're not trying to punish her. You're just removing your energy from someone who wasn't matching it. You're simply choosing not to overextend for someone who's giving you less. And that, in itself, is powerful. Because when she sees that your interest was never desperate, that it was selective, that it was based on how she treats you, now she sees you differently. Now she realizes she can't just coast and expect you to be there. And that's when you become rare. That's when she compares you to every other guy who's chasing her, blowing up her phone, doing the most. Because you're not one of them. You're not addicted to her attention. You're not proving yourself every chance you get. You're just living your life, staying focused, keeping your standards. That's what triggers her fear of losing you. Not manipulation, not silence for no reason, but indifference to inconsistency. That's what gets her thinking. Because deep down, she knows what most women know. The men they truly want aren't the ones who beg. They're the ones who move different. The ones who can walk away. The ones who don't just say they have standards, but live like it. There's a point where a woman realizes the man in front of her isn't like the rest. And it almost always comes after he stops trying so hard. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because he knows his value. And that quiet confidence, that natural sense of self-worth, is what shifts everything. She starts to ask herself things she never questioned before. Why do I miss him when he's not around? Why do I feel uneasy when he doesn't reply right away? Why do I find myself wanting his attention more than I used to? That's not accidental. That's a psychological response to emotional detachment from someone she thought would always be there. And here's what most men never understand. The less emotional control she has over you, the more emotionally invested she becomes in you. If she knows her actions no longer pull predictable reactions out of you, if she can't make you chase harder when she pulls back, or beg for clarity when she gets cold, then her old strategies no longer work. And when that happens, she starts adjusting her behavior. She might become sweeter. She might start sending flirty messages out of nowhere. She might act more supportive or feminine. Why? Because she's trying to get back to that place where she felt safe, knowing you wanted her more than she wanted you. But now, that power is gone. You're not cold, you're just centered. And that alone makes you dangerous to a woman who's used to being in control. Now, this doesn't mean you should become emotionally unavailable or start ignoring her to gain leverage. That's not what real power is. Real power is when you know how to stay connected without being consumed. When you can enjoy her company, but not lose yourself in the process. When you're fully present in the moment, but completely willing to walk away if respect disappears. That kind of mindset is rare, and women pick up on it immediately. They sense when they're dealing with a man who doesn't need them for emotional validation. That's when you stop being an option and start being a challenge. Not because you're playing games, but because you're living in reality. And in reality, attraction isn't about trying harder. It's about knowing when to stop trying at all. You ever notice how a woman reacts when she sends a message and you don't answer right away? If she's genuinely interested, she starts feeling that discomfort. Her mind starts racing. Is he busy? Is he mad at me? Is he losing interest? Even if you were just living your life, working, or out with friends, that temporary pause creates tension, and tension is what keeps attraction alive. A relationship without tension is a relationship without polarity. It's flat. It becomes routine. But when she knows you're not always one text away, not always ready to jump into conversation the second she pings your phone, that's when the spark starts to reappear. Because now you're not predictable. You're not acting like every other guy who's waiting for her to validate them. You've got your own life, and that's attractive. And let me be even more direct. The moment she realizes you're no longer afraid to lose her, that's when she becomes afraid to lose you. That's the shift. That's the flip. That's when she starts texting first. That's when she starts sending you selfies, tagging you in things, asking where you are, how you've been. And if you're not giving her the same level of energy you used to, not because you're angry or bitter, but because you've simply evolved, now she's the one trying to reignite what she thought was guaranteed. Now she's the one wondering if she messed up, if she took you for granted, if she played the wrong cards. That's a powerful place to be, because now you're no longer reacting. She is. Here's the thing. Women talk. They compare. They evaluate. If she's even halfway interested in you, she'll pay close attention to how you make her feel compared to other men. And if you're the type of guy who doesn't chase, doesn't over-explain, doesn't fold under emotional pressure, but still treats her well when she treats you well, she'll remember that. It sticks with her. It makes her think twice before playing games. Because she knows now. This isn't a guy who begs. This isn't a guy who caves. This is a guy who leaves when respect goes missing. And that awareness will shape how she behaves around you. You're not someone she can toy with. You're not someone who's afraid of silence or distance. You've made peace with both. And that, more than anything, makes her second guess the little power plays she used to rely on. And if you think this won't work on confident or attractive women, you're wrong. In fact, this works even more on those types of women. Why? Because they're so used to being chased, praised, and put on pedestals. They're used to men adjusting their whole personalities just to keep them interested. So when you show up as the guy who doesn't do that, the guy who holds his ground, who's unbothered, who values peace over attention, it disorients her in the best way possible. It's like a pattern interruption. Her mind expects one response, but gets another. And now she's intrigued. Now she's watching you closely. Because she knows you're not playing by the rules she's used to. That's when the fear of loss becomes real. Not because you said anything. Not because you gave an ultimatum. But because she feels it in her gut. She senses the shift. She notices the difference in your energy. And it bothers her. It lingers. It keeps her up wondering why things changed, what caused the switch, and more importantly, if she can get that old connection back. That's what makes her show up different. That's what gets her attention. That's what separates you from every other guy she thought she had wrapped around her finger. The deeper psychology here is simple. Women crave emotional safety, but they're also wired to chase emotional stimulation. And when a man provides both, without handing over his entire identity in the process, he becomes unforgettable. She doesn't fear losing just your presence. She fears losing how you made her feel when she realized you were different. That fear doesn't start when you get needy. It starts when you stop overgiving, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing comfort and start living with clarity. You don't need to punish her. You don't need to pull any childish stunts. You just need to mean what you do. That silent conviction, that calm indifference, creates more fear of loss than any dramatic text or emotional outburst ever could. And here's where most guys go wrong. They think if they just show her how much they care, she'll come around. So they double text. They offer reassurance she didn't ask for. They try to prove they're different. And by doing all of that, they end up proving they're exactly the same as every other guy she emotionally walked over. But the men who leave an imprint are the ones who give her the gift of missing them. That's the part most guys don't understand. She needs to miss you. She needs that gap in your presence to realize what she felt around you. If she never has time to reflect, if you're always available, always responding, always proving, then she has no time to value. She never feels the contrast. She never feels the discomfort that creates craving. And without that, there's no depth to what you're building. There's no gravity, no weight, just surface level emotions that disappear as soon as someone else grabs her attention. But let's be real. Walking away isn't easy. Holding back your usual instincts to chase, fix, or explain takes discipline, especially when you care, especially when you feel that connection and want it to last. But the truth is, if a woman doesn't fear losing you, she'll never fully value you. And the moment she senses that she could walk away and you'd still wait around hoping, you lose all leverage. You're no longer the prize. You're no longer the confident, grounded man she respected. You become just another emotionally available guy trying to fill her emotional void. And women don't chase void fillers. They chase the men who create space, the men who are fine with or without them, the men who can walk away without leaving a mess behind. When you truly internalize this, your actions start to change automatically. You're not calculating every move. You're not trying to manipulate her into a reaction. You're simply embodying the mindset of a man who doesn't beg, a man who values peace over drama, a man who would rather be alone than be tolerated. You begin to trust silence. You don't rush to fix tension with words. You don't chase validation after one cold reply. You let things breathe. And when you do that, she begins to breathe differently around you. The way she talks to you softens. Her attention sharpens. Her energy becomes more respectful. And deep down, it's because she feels that quiet pressure, the subtle fear of losing a man who was never fully hers, but who made her feel more than any man who was. Let me paint a scenario for you. Imagine a girl who's used to attention. She gets DMs constantly. Guys compliment her daily. She's used to being the one who gets chased. Then you come along. You give her a little attention, just enough to spark curiosity. But you don't follow the usual script. You don't check in constantly. You don't send long emotional texts. You're not always first to reply. And you're not rude about it either. You're kind, but measured. Present, but not desperate. Now she starts to feel something weird. It's not rejection. It's uncertainty. And uncertainty breeds desire. Her mind starts to work overtime trying to understand you. She rereads your texts. She tries to decode your tone. She pays more attention to your Instagram stories. Why? Because you're not giving her the emotional blueprint she's used to. You're creating an emotional puzzle. And people don't walk away from puzzles they haven't solved. That's what triggers fear. Not threats, not arguments, but ambiguity. Not the toxic kind where you're being shady or dishonest, but the powerful kind that comes from emotional balance. You're not pulling away to punish. You're just not giving more than what's earned. And that makes her earn you. That makes her try. That makes her step out of her comfort zone. Because the reward, your attention, your presence, your energy, now has value. You've made her work for it without saying a word. So many men give away their power before a woman even chooses them. They hand it over because they're afraid that if they don't, she'll walk. But here's the reality. If you have to beg for a woman's interest, you never had it to begin with. But if you stand your ground, if you hold your frame, if you keep living like her absence wouldn't ruin your peace, she starts to notice. Not all at once, not always immediately, but it sinks in. And when it does, she starts checking if the door is still open. She starts making little efforts, a text, a comment, a random heart emoji. And that's not by accident. That's her trying to re-enter the emotional space she used to take for granted. And it's in that space where you now hold the power. Because the man she once assumed would always be there has become the man she's afraid to lose. Not because you shouted, not because you chased, but because you stopped doing the emotional lifting she never thanked you for in the first place. This is where everything comes together. Because the truth is, when a woman realizes she can no longer predict you, when she sees that her usual strategies no longer give her control over you, something shifts inside her. It's no longer about games. It's about survival, emotional survival. See, most women are experts at managing emotional attention. They've built their identity around the ability to attract it, manipulate it, and decide when they want it. But when they meet a man who isn't desperate to give it, they suddenly lose their grip. It's not because you're being cruel. It's because you're finally giving them the one thing they didn't expect, the absence of certainty. You're not ignoring her. You're just not orbiting her. You're not pulling back in anger. You're just no longer centering your identity around whether she picks you or not. That's what real power looks like. You're not performing. You're not reacting. You're simply choosing peace over attention. And ironically, that's exactly what makes women fear losing you. Because while they're used to men doing anything to avoid rejection, you've accepted it as part of life. You're not running from it. You're not scared of her walking away. And that terrifies her more than anything. She realizes, consciously or subconsciously, that she doesn't control your emotions. She can't guilt you into explaining yourself. She can't bait you into proving your worth. She can't manipulate you with silence or pull you in with breadcrumbs, because you're not looking to be picked. You've already picked yourself. You're focused on your life, your goals, your peace. And from that place, you're not chasing what drains you. You're responding only to what adds value. When you stop asking for love and start expecting respect, women see you differently. They might not say it, but they feel it. You go from being disposable to replaceable. Because you're no longer in that sea of guys trying to win her over, you've placed yourself on a different level. Not because you said you were different, but because you acted differently. You stopped trying to prove yourself. You stopped reacting to every push and pull. You stopped giving attention to someone who hadn't earned it. And this is key. You have to understand that your time, energy, and emotional investment are valuable. You're not just some placeholder until she finds someone better. You are the standard. You set the tone. And if she can't match your level, you don't stoop. You walk. That's the mindset that creates fear of loss. That's the energy that sticks in her mind. Because deep down, every woman remembers the guy who didn't flinch when she tried to test him. Every woman remembers the man who didn't lose his dignity over her affection. And more than anything, she remembers the moment she realized she couldn't control him with her silence. This is not about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming emotionally sovereign. You are no longer outsourcing your confidence to a woman's approval. You're no longer measuring your worth based on whether or not she texts back. You're rooted in something deeper, self-respect. And from that foundation, everything you do feels stronger. You speak with more weight. You act with more intention. You stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, and over-giving. You move with purpose, and she feels it. Eventually, the same woman who thought she had you wrapped around her finger will be the one second-guessing everything. Why hasn't he called? Is he over me? Did I lose him? That fear creeps in slowly, but once it takes root, it grows fast. She starts checking your social media more. She starts asking mutual friends about you. She might even reach out with a casual message just to test the waters, but you'll know the difference. You'll know it's not out of kindness or curiosity. It's out of fear. Fear that she lost something real. Fear that she underestimated a man who never needed her to complete him. Just someone who could meet him where he was already going. And you'll have a choice. Not a desperate one, but a powerful one. Do you let her back in? Do you keep walking? Do you slow down just enough to see if she's grown? Or do you let her learn from the loss? That's the luxury of being in your power. You're not waiting around anymore. You're not trying to convince anyone. You're building, moving, evolving. And if she wants to be a part of that, she has to come correct. Because once a woman realizes she's not needed for your happiness, she either levels up or walks out. And either way, you win. The fear of losing you isn't something you can force with words. It's something you create with energy, with consistency, with standards. When your actions say, I will not beg, I will not settle, and I will not let you drain my value just so you feel important. She feels it. And that's when everything changes. That's when she starts investing. That's when she reconsiders what she thought was just another guy. Because now, you're the one that got away. Not because she never had a chance, but because she never took the chance seriously. And now, that opportunity is closing, fast. So let this be your reminder. You don't have to play games. You just have to stop playing yourself. Stop giving discounts to someone who isn't even trying to pay full price. Walk like you know your value. Speak like your peace comes first. And watch what happens when she realizes she might have just lost the only man who actually understood how to lead with strength and silence. Subscribe for more. Subscribe.